The silence after the shower stopped was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was a vacuum, pulling all the air, all the certainty, out of the room. I stood there, a statue holding a paper bomb, as I listened to the rustle of a towel, the soft pad of his feet on the bathroom tile. My eyes scanned the elegant hotel room. The suitcases neatly aligned by the closet, the two robes hanging side by side, the view of the turquoise ocean beyond the balcony, all of it now a meticulously curated set for a tragedy. The note in my hand was not just paper, it was an alternate reality, a wormhole into a life parallel to my own. I deserved to know. Those 3 words echoed with a chilling kindness. This stranger, whoever they were, had looked at me, at the facade of the happy couple, and had chosen mercy over silence. They had risked something to throw me this lifeline. And as the door handle began to turn, I knew I had to grasp it with both hands, but secretly. To reveal it now would be to give him all the power to explain it away, to gaslight me, to turn my evidence into a misunderstanding. So I moved. With a speed I didn't know I possessed, I smoothed the crinkle from the paper, my fingers tracing the unfamiliar handwriting as if memorizing a map. I slid open the hidden zipper in my makeup bag, a compartment I used for spare earring backs, and placed the note inside. The zipper closed with a final, soft sigh just as the bathroom door opened, releasing a cloud of steam and the clean, citrus scent of his shampoo. "The water's perfect," he said, his voice warm and relaxed. He stood there, his hair dark and wet, a towel around his waist, his skin glowing. He was the picture of vacation ease. His eyes, those familiar hazel eyes I'd gazed into for over a decade, found mine. His head tilted, a gesture of concern so ordinary it now felt like an expertly delivered line. "You okay, honey? You look pale." In that moment, I understood that acting was not about fabrication but about selection. I did not create a new smile. I chose an old one. I recalled the smile I'd used when he'd surprised me with tickets to Paris, a smile of delighted, overwhelmed love. I summoned its memory to my lips. "Just a little sun-stunned, I think," I heard myself say, my voice miraculously steady, wrapped in a light, airy tone. "It's so beautiful here." I crossed the room, the plush carpet muffling my footsteps, and rose on my toes to kiss his damp cheek. My lips touched skin that was both familiar and suddenly alien. The gesture was a phantom limb, moving out of habit. "I'll take a quick shower." Behind the locked bathroom door, the performance dropped. I gripped the edge of the marble vanity, my knuckles white, staring at the woman in the mirror. She was me, but fractured. Her eyes were wide, pooling with a terror so profound it was almost calm. But her mouth was different. It was no longer the soft, often smiling mouth of Clara, the supportive wife. It was a hard line, pressed together with a resolve that seemed to originate from somewhere deep in her spine. Phoenix. "Lena." I mouthed the words soundlessly. They were not just names. They were coordinates. They were the latitude and longitude of a betrayal I was now tasked with charting. This luxurious bathroom, with its rain shower and sea salt scrubs, was my war room. This trip was no longer a romantic retreat. It was a reconnaissance mission. He had brought me to the battlefield, believing me unarmed. But I now had a secret map. To truly fathom the devastation, you must understand the city he destroyed. Our marriage wasn't a flimsy tent. It was a fortress we'd built for 12 years, stone by stone. We'd laid the foundation with late-night talks about our dreams. We'd built the walls with shared sacrifices, me supporting his fledgling company, him championing my design studio. We'd furnished it with inside jokes, traditions, a language of glances and touches. He was the architect of our joys, the planner, the surprise giver. So when storms came, as they do in any long marriage, I trusted the structure. When he became a ghost in our home, preoccupied, absent even when present, citing work stress, I checked the foundations. I blamed the weather, not the architect. And when he arrived one evening, his eyes soft with a manufactured regret, proposing this lavish trip as the tool to repair our cracks, I felt a flood of relief. He still cared. He was still fighting for us. I said yes with a full heart, packing sundresses and hope in equal measure. Now, with the notes poison seeping into my bloodstream, every beautiful detail of this paradise mutated. The champagne upon arrival, its bubbles catching the sunset light. Was it a celebration of us, or a toast to his successful deception? The way he held my hand during the stroll along the beach, his thumb rubbing my knuckles. Was it affection, or was he monitoring my pulse for signs of suspicion? The candlelit dinners where he leaned in, listening so intently, was he cherishing my words, or was he an actor studying his co-star, ensuring his reactions were perfectly timed? The facade was so impeccable, it was terrifying. It meant the lie was not a spontaneous stumble, it was a premeditated, ongoing construction project. He was living a double life with the diligence of a full-time job. That first night, lying rigid beside him in the king-sized bed, the sound of the ocean waves was a mockery of the turmoil inside me. His breathing evened out into the rhythm of sleep, a rhythm I'd found comfort in for years. Now, it felt like the sound of a guard sleeping on duty. My mind, however, was a hive of frantic, focused activity. I started with Phoenix, the business trip. I reconstructed it frame by frame. Him packing, asking if I'd seen his blue tie. Me finding it, handing it to him. "You'll knock him dead," I'd said. He'd kissed my forehead. "I'll miss you." I'd texted him good night on his first night. A simple, mundane text. "Hope the meetings went okay. Miss you." His reply, a single red heart emoji. I'd saved it. Now, I dissected that heart. Was it tapped out quickly while another woman slept beside him? Was it a placeholder, a minimal effort to maintain the illusion of connection? The thought made nausea rise in my throat. The next day, I began my fieldwork. We were by the infinity pool, the sun a bright, cheerful lyre in the sky. I wore my large sunglasses, not just against the glare, but against him. They were my one-way mirror. I took a sip of my iced tea, the condensation cool on my fingers. "So," I began, my voice carefully draped in casual afterthought. "Whatever happened with that big Phoenix deal? You were so stressed about it before you left." He didn't miss a beat. He was scrolling through his phone and didn't even look up. It's ongoing. You know how these things are. Lots of talks, lots of delays. Corporate wheels turn slowly. He finally glanced at me, offering a wry, commiserating smile.
"Why?"
Missing my thrilling stories about conference rooms and bad coffee. I laughed, the sound tinkling and false to my own ears. "Just wondering if it was worth all those late nights you put in beforehand." I leaned forward, as if sharing a secret. "The hotel looked nice in the pic you sent." And there it was. Not a flinch, not a gasp. A flicker. A microscopic rearrangement of the light in his eyes. A shift so swift it was less than a blink. It was the look of a computer recalculating a route after an unexpected obstacle. "It was fine," he said, his voice a fraction tighter. "Standard business place. All the same." Then the pivot smooth as silk. "Should we book that sunset cruise for tomorrow? I heard it's incredible." He had navigated away. But the flicker was everything. It was the first tangible crack in the crystal glass of our reality. He hadn't denied. He'd deflected. And in that deflection, I felt the solid ground of my suspicion harden into certainty. But I needed more than certainty. I needed proof. I had the photo. Under the guise of checking the weather, I opened my phone, found our text thread, and pulled up the image he'd sent. A room service steak, a glass of red wine, a white cloth napkin. A lonely business dinner, tableau. My thumb and forefinger zoomed in on the edge of the tray, on the nightstand. The image pixelated, then resolved as I enhanced it. A cylindrical object, next to the pepper mill. A lipstick tube. The cap was off. The color was a deep, vampy plum. A color I associated with boldness, with nightlife, with a kind of dramatic flair I had never possessed. My entire body went cold, as if the ice from my tea had been injected into my veins. The anger came then, not as a hot surge, but as a deep, freezing wave. It was the anger of violation, of a staged scene. This was a prop in his performance. Her prop. I saved the enhanced image, creating a secret album on my phone I named Inspiration. The Clara who suspects nothing took off her sunglasses, smiled at her husband, and said, "A sunset cruise sounds perfect, honey." The true breach, the point of no return, came in the dead of that night. The courage it took was not the courage of anger, but the courage of despair. I had to know the depth of the well I was in. I waited for the deep, regular rhythm of his sleep. Then, with a slowness that felt agonizing, I slipped from the sheets. The floor was cool under my feet. His phone glowed on the charger. I unplugged it, a thief in my own life. In the bathroom, the lock clicked with a sound of finality. I sat on the closed toilet lid, the glowing rectangle in my hand feeling like a live explosive. I entered the code. Our wedding date. The phone unlocked. The betrayal was so profound it was almost metaphysical. This simple sequence of numbers, a tribute to our union, was now the key to its destruction. My search was methodical, clinical. Text messages for Lena. Nothing. Contacts, nothing. Email. I typed Phoenix into the search bar of his sent folder. And there, among the mundane emails to clients and colleagues, it sat, a flight confirmation from the airline. I opened it. 2 passengers. Mark Evans. Elena Rodriguez. The departure date was a day earlier than he had told me. He had left on a Thursday, not a Friday. He had stolen a day. A whole, secret, sunlit day with her before his business even began. The confirmation listed seats together. I took a screenshot, my fingers clumsy with a shaking I could not control. I emailed it to myself, then deleted the sent email from his phone, diving into the trash folder to permanently erase it. My breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. I was about to put the phone back when I remembered a feature. The hidden album. I navigated to his photos, clicked on the utilities folder, and there it was. Hidden. It required his passcode again. My heart hammered. I entered it. The album opened. It was named Old Projects. Inside, 3 images. The first, a woman with sleek, dark hair pulled into a ponytail, laughing over her shoulder on a sunny hiking trail. She was wearing a diamond stud in her ear that caught the light. The second, a dinner table, her hand resting on his forearm, her nails painted that same deep plum. The shot was close, intimate, focused on their touching limbs. The third, a selfie, taken in a car. She was in the driver's seat. He was leaning over from the passenger side, their cheeks pressed together, smiling at the camera. It was a smile of easy, shared happiness. It was our smile. I didn't cry. I just stared, absorbing the details. The curve of her jaw, the specific shade of her lipstick, the way his body leaned toward her. This was Lena, Elena. The ghost was now flesh and blood and laughter and nail polish. She was real, and she existed in a parallel universe where my husband was hers. I put the phone back on the charger, aligning it exactly as it had been. I returned to bed. The space between our bodies was no longer just inches. It was the Grand Canyon. I had the evidence. I had the keys. And with a chilling, absolute clarity, I understood the true, grotesque purpose of this trip. It wasn't a repair mission. It was a distraction. A beautiful, expensive, emotional sandbox where he could bury my suspicions under a mountain of romantic gestures. He hadn't brought me here to fix us. He'd brought me here to fool me better. The confrontation, when it came, was not a dramatic explosion. It was a surgical strike. The next evening, on our balcony as the sun bled into the ocean, I showed him my phone. I didn't speak. I simply displayed the zoomed-in image of the nightstand, the lipstick tube clear and damning. "This was on your nightstand in Phoenix," I said, my voice flat, devoid of the emotion that churned inside me. "It's not mine." His smile, the one he'd been wearing all day, didn't just fade. It evaporated, leaving behind a blank, startled canvas. "Oh, that," he stammered, a laugh that was more of a cough. "That was Sarah from the client's office." She was in my room going over the presentation. She must have left it. It was chaos. I let the silence expand, thick and heavy between us, broken only by the distant crash of waves. I watched him squirm in it. Then I lowered my voice, speaking with a terrifying calm. Her name is Elena Rodriguez. You flew together. The confirmation is for 2 seats. You left on a Thursday, Mark. The color drained from his face. It was a physical transformation. His tan seemed to leach away, leaving his skin a sickly gray. His eyes widened, not with guilt at first, but with sheer, panic shock, the shock of a gambler who realizes the game is rigged against him. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. For one unguarded second, I saw the raw, frantic man underneath, scrambling for a story that hadn't been pre-written. Clara, it's not what you think, he began, his voice low, urgent, pleading. He reached for my hand, but I withdrew it as if from a flame. What is it then? Asked, my voice still that eerie, calm monotone. Tell me what it is, Mark. Use your words. Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like you brought me to paradise for one reason, to lie to me better. What followed was a masterclass in desperate justification. A furious, hushed argument played out against the soundtrack of Paradise. He admitted to an emotional entanglement. He swore it was a mistake, a moment of weakness during a stressful time, that it was over, that this trip was his desperate, grand attempt to truly come back to me, to wipe the slate clean. He used the lexicon of the caught. Complicated, meaningless. It didn't mean anything. I love you. But each word was a thin coat of paint over a rotting wall. I could see the decay right through it. The trust, the fundamental belief in the shared reality of our lives, had evaporated, leaving behind only the brittle shell of our history. We spent the final 48 hours of the vacation in a horrific pantomime, sitting silently at meals, lying miles apart on the beach, sleeping with a continent of space between us and the bed. We flew home in a silence so dense and heavy I felt it pressing on my eardrums, convinced the plane was struggling under its weight. Home was no longer a sanctuary. It was a crime scene where the evidence was in the familiar patterns of our life. The sofa where we'd cuddled, the kitchen where we'd cooked together, the bed we'd shared, all were now tainted artifacts. I moved my things to the guest room that first night back, the click of the door locking behind me a symbolic sound. The grief was a vast, black ocean, and its waves threatened to pull me under. But I couldn't afford to drown. I had to learn to swim in this new, hostile sea. The very next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Anya, and her voice was like cool steel over the phone. In her office, surrounded by books and a view of the city, I laid out my story not as a weeping wife, but as a client presenting a case. I showed her the note. I'd photographed it, the flight confirmation, the lipstick photo, the hidden album pictures. She listened without pity, which was what I needed. With her guidance, we began the silent, legal, and financial dismantling of our intertwined lives. We filed motions to freeze joint accounts. Through a discreet investigator, we discovered more: a 6-month lease on a chic apartment in a city an hour away, credit card statements showing dinners for 2, transactions at a jewelry store for a necklace I never saw. My revenge was not a fiery outburst. It was a glacier, slow, silent, inexorable, and capable of reshaping entire landscapes. It was the deliberate, piece-by-piece reclamation of everything that was mine: my security, my dignity, my future. I would sever the ties not with a jagged edge of rage, but with the clean, sharp scalpel of the law and the truth. Then I made the most strategic, difficult move of all. I found her, Elena. Using the information from the flight confirmation and a bit of online searching, I sent her a message. It was not filled with vitriol. It was a brief, cold telegram of facts. I attached the twin flight confirmations. I listed the dates of our Maui reconciliation trip. I wrote, *, he told me he was on a business trip with you. He told me it was over. He told me this vacation was to fix our marriage. He is lying to both of us, *. She called me within the hour. Her voice was young, educated, and trembling with a shock so profound it mirrored my own from weeks before. Through halting sentences, she painted the other side of his coin. He had told her our marriage was a dead shell, that we lived as polite roommates, that I was emotionally unstable, but he was staying out of a sense of duty until I was stronger. He had told her I knew about their relationship and had reluctantly accepted it. He had built me up as a fragile, tragic figure to secure her sympathy and her silence. He had lied to us both, constructing two separate, incompatible narratives, pitting us against each other in the dark to keep his twin worlds from colliding. Our alliance was born not from friendship, but from mutual devastation and a cold, shared need for the complete truth. It was a partnership of the betrayed. She sent me everything she had, love notes saved in her email, a screenshot of him promising her a future, photos from their secret weekend getaways. Our collaboration was a forensic exercise, piecing together the full, ugly skeleton of his deceit. With the portrait of his double life now complete in devastating detail, I planned the final, public act. I needed no physical revenge, no messy confrontation. I needed his own life, the one he valued in the eyes of others, to reflect the truth. I invited his parents, the people who adored him, who saw him as the perfect son, and his two oldest friends, over for a casual dinner. He was wary but hopeful, interpreting it as a step toward the normalcy he craved. The air in our home was thick with the awkward fragrance of hope and pretense. After the meal, as coffee was served, I stood up. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, but my hands, resting on the back of my chair, were steady. All eyes turned to me. I asked you all here tonight because I care about you. I began, my voice clear and carrying in the suddenly quiet room. It held no malice, only a grave sincerity. And because I think you deserve to know the man Mark really is. He looked up from his plate, confusion shifting rapidly to dawning horror. Clara, what are you doing? He whispered a warning. I picked up the tablet I'd placed beside me. Last month, I said, clicking it on, Mark went to Phoenix. I turned the screen to show his parents. The flight confirmation for 2 filled the display. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. I swiped. The lipstick photo. I swiped again. The picture from the hidden folder, of him and Elena cheek to cheek in the car. I played the audio clip, captured on my phone that night on the balcony, of him saying, "It was an emotional entanglement, but it's over." His voice, strained and guilty, filled the dining room. I showed the lease agreement for the apartment, the jewelry receipt. Finally, I displayed a side-by-side image, a text he'd sent me saying, "I miss you so much," during a weekend he'd told Elena he was on a guy's fishing trip. He told her we were separated and I was unstable. He told me she was a meaningless mistake. He built 2 full, simultaneous lives, I said, my gaze sweeping over the stunned faces of his family and friends. And he used all of us, your trust, your love, my heart, her hope, to build them. The room was a frozen tableau. His father stared, uncomprehending, at the tablet screen. His best friend looked down at his hands, his jaw a hard, angry line. His mother began to cry silently. The silence was absolute, a physical weight. Mark looked at me, his face a ghostly mask of utter ruin. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. No clever lie, no charming deflection sprang forth. There was no defense against this curated, undeniable avalanche of truth. The facade he had maintained for so long, the edifice of his identity as a good son, a loyal friend, a devoted husband, didn't just crack. It imploded under the weight of its own contradictions, collapsing in a heap of dust and shame in front of the very audience whose approval was its foundation. He was exposed, completely and irrevocably. He didn't utter a word. He simply sat there, in the wreckage of his own making, dismantled. The aftermath had a grim, efficient momentum. The divorce proceedings, armed with the mountain of evidence, were swift and unambiguous. I retained the home we'd built.